Prince Harry and Prince Andrew will not be awarded special medals in celebration of the Queen's Platinum Jubilee since both dukes have lost their military honours. It's since emerged that Prince Charles has invited Prince Harry and his family to stay with him when they next visit the UK. Let's hear because of his issue with the police protection not being able to pay for it personally. But of course, this is interesting, isn't it, that Prince Charles has actually invited, well, he wants to meet his grandchildren, I guess. He is currently competing at the Australian Open, whilst his main rival was deported from the country. Novak Djokovic arrived in the Serbian capital, Belgrade, after losing his bid to stay in Australia, of course, because he's not vaccinated against COVID. Djokovic now risks missing the French Open too, after the government there said that athletes must be vaccinated to compete in France. To bring you up to date with what is happening in Melbourne with Murray. He's currently serving to win the third set. They're one set apiece at the moment, and he's 5-4 up in the third set. Thousands of National Guard troops are being sent to hospitals in the US to prevent them from collapsing amid a surge of Omicron cases. The governor of Maryland has declared a 30-day state of emergency and has mobilised 1,000 soldiers as cases threaten to overwhelm the state's medical facilities. Our North America... well, how bad is it, and how can troops help in a medical setting? Also this morning, magistrates in England and Wales are served.
As much sincerity as the ostriches in China were given by Richard.
Can I tell you some good news?
Yes,
Andy
please.
Murray is 2-1 up.
Oh, is he?
In Melbourne at the moment.
Back on form.
And now in the fourth set. There you
Back
go.
on form.
Good news.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Very good. You have an outstanding documentary that airs on ITV tonight at 9, Maxwell, and you're going to...
A lot of different strands to this, isn't there? I mean, this, of course, has led The Sun, you know, a laminated photograph apparently in the bedroom drawer for all staff to know exactly how to place the millions of teddy bears that he has on his bed.
So this has nothing to do with his children? These are his...
No, protection officer, former Royal Protection Officer who worked at Buckingham Palace for 6 years and was taken up to the royal quarters where the Duke... So that's what people say.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we'll talk about that, yes. Yeah. I mean, it's not a crime to be shouty.
No.
You know what I mean?
And it's not a crime, of course, to have teddy bears on your bed.
None of it is a crime.
In the newspaper this morning. So more on that. Yeah. File, it airs tonight on ITV at 9 p.m. Well, you've done a lot of work talking to some very interesting people and digging up some remarkable detail.
And, you know, lots of people who were, you know, lined up to speak on it would pull out at the last minute. You know, things like that, because it's, I think, because obviously the trial of Ghislaine was ongoing as we were trying to speak to people, and I think there was a lot of fear around what would happen if she was not convicted, and all that suspicion that certainly people in those circles and how moneyed they are, and the power and the secret influence they might have in very, very high and very powerful society around the world, in fact.
And is the spy?
It sort of covers a few things, yes. I suppose... yes, and we do try to establish what the relationship was like, because we don't really know between Prince Andrew and Ghislaine, because we've all seen that photograph, haven't we, of Ghislaine in the background, Prince Andrew at the front, with Virginia Giuffre in the picture. Life. But what we find out in the documentary, and that, of course, sheds light then, doesn't it, on how much would anybody know. Now, she is a convicted criminal. You know, when we were doing this, she wasn't convicted. But now we know she is a convicted criminal of a very... Phillips here, she was about 21, she was a model, and on a day off, a friend of hers said, oh, I know, my friend Jeffrey has an island round here. Let's pop over. Let's just take a listen. Predicting, or it came as a complete surprise to me, actually, which I suppose speaks to some of the issues that were around in the Ghislaine trial about memory around incidents that happen in your life of that nature. And she, obviously, you can see she got much more upset than that. You know, she was very upset, because I think what happened was that she went back, she sort of retreated into that moment as she was recounting it. And I think a lot of you feel a sense of guilt about, could I have done more? Should I have shouted? Should I have screamed? And there's a sort of survivor's guilt, I think. Anyway, so she was describing it, and you know, and actually it was in an effort to comfort her, because often when we do this job, I think people can think we're just on telly to make people cry on telly because it's good telly. Do you know what I mean? And and she's on Zoom and I'm in the UK and, I can't actually physically comfort her in any way. And it was just an instant thing. I just felt quite a shocking sense of empathy with what she was describing. We were on camera, but it's a human-to-human experience when someone's telling you something so painful. And so I did say to her, something happened to me when I was 12 and I understand you shouldn't feel guilty about not. And then, sorry.
No.
Do you know what? I've only ever told 2 people in my whole life.
This is when you were 12?
And in the last 2 weeks, I've had to tell, family members and so on.
You don't have to.
But the point being, so even on Friday, it was very touch and go as to whether I should leave it in the documentary, because it's a big thing to say. But actually, I think we've got a clip of Scotty, haven't we? And I know this is a source of controversy, isn't it now? Because the defence are now saying that what Scotty, one of the jurors, revealed during the deliberations may be a cause for a mistrial because I interviewed him, he had an impact on me. Should we listen to him first? This isn't the exact clip, but it's just worth knowing who he is. There's a couple of clips here we can play of him. Well, good morning. It's emerged that Prince Charles has invited Prince Harry and his family to stay with him when they next visit the UK. It's also minutes past 7.
There's a lot of love coming in for you, how incredibly brave it was for her to share such personal information. Stephen says, Ranvir, you've helped so many people this morning by sharing your experience. Donna, these are dozens of them. Donna, I wish to convey my sincere, heartfelt admiration to Ranvir for confessing to her bad childhood experience. There's far too much of it happening in the world. Great lady, Ranvir, and I'm really looking forward to watching your documentary tonight.
Oh, thank you. That's very good. It's very strange, because I had to tell 3 people, obviously, before it comes to air and whatever, because nobody knew about it. And they were 12 or 11.
Really?
They had never told anyone. And I found it extraordinary. I couldn't believe it. Right, OK. And one person said a name, and I knew that person.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's so much more common than any of us talk about. And I think that's why there's such a misunderstanding about behaviours around it for victims and how you behave in those circumstances, why you'd never talk about it. I think people don't understand that in the criminal justice system.
And by speaking out, you will have been able to provide, may be able to now do that, or who may not, but are glad that you've been brave enough to do that.
Yeah, sorry to have upset
And
you.
you have no regrets at all, do you, of actually sharing that on the documentary and here this morning?
No, I don't. I really toiled with it. That's why I've had a real tug of war over it.
Yeah.
You have to sign off. Didn't sign it until very, very late.
Really?
Because it's just a very big thing to say. So, yeah. But thank you. Thank you to everybody who's messaged. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right.
Thank
well,
you.
thanks. We'll talk to you more about the documentary later in the programme. It's so interesting. But it's...
Prince Harry and Prince Andrew won't be awarded special medals in celebration of the Queen's Platinum Jubilee, since both... Now, tennis star Andy Murray is competing in the Australian Open, of course, and he has just won his opening round match, 3-2. It was all a bit nail-biting. He lost a tiebreaker in the 4th set. But while that's going on, of course, his rival was deported from the country. Novak Djokovic arrived in Belgrade after losing his bid to stay in Australia because he's not vaccinated against COVID. Our chief correspondent, Richard Gay, certain future for Novak Djokovic around the world now. Thousands of National Guard troops are being sent to hospitals in the US to prevent them from collapsing amid the surge of Omicron cases. Our North America correspondent Noel Phillips has been given exclusive access to National Guard troops in Maryland as they battle the escalating fight against COVID. Yep, and that's it from me. Good news about Andy Murray, hey?
Oh, congratulations.
You won.
Fantastic.
Excellent. Back on
stuff.
form. Really good to hear.
Which suggests a very, very, connected life. But what we find out in the documentary, blunt about how people view journalists, if you're not... And she's on Zoom and I'm in the UK. And then, sorry.
No.
Do you know what?
It's such a classic. Can we play it from the top again, please?